Welcome, Walter. It's very nice to have you here in Copenhagen. We're just about to start our AI masterclass that we've been planning for quite a while now, and we're very excited to have you as the key host, the keynote speaker at the event. And thank you for also taking the opportunity to have a chat with me about the AI right before.
No, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm looking forward to the event, but even more to this chat together.
I mean, I feel I have so much I can learn from you when it comes to AI. How many years you have in the industry?
Well, in industry itself, it's been almost 8 with Intel. But prior to that, I was working for a company doing text-to-speech in Edinburgh. The company is called Cereproc. When AI was not that buzzword.
As hot as it is today.
Yeah, it was still deep learning and machine learning, and I loved that day. And prior to that, I had a couple of research opportunities in universities in Glasgow and in Italy as well.
Oh, sounds beautiful. But if I have to ask you, how would you describe that you work in AI without actually telling me that you work in AI?
Oh, nice. I like to think about processes like data. Can I use the word AI?
Yes.
When it comes to those type of applications, it looks like sort of magic. I know there's no magic. And so I challenge myself thinking, how can you build this knowing that there is no magic powder? So how can you recommend like the next jacket or t-shirt to buy, knowing that there is no magic powder behind it? And when you start looking at this type of application from this perspective, you then start questioning yourself as like, okay, hold on a second. If I'm during Christmas time and I want to buy something to wear as a gift to my girlfriend or somebody I love, where should I start? Where would I start?
You have that thought processing behind.
Yes, and then you realize, well, I would look at what's in the wardrobe or what is she wearing during the pictures, in the events. And then from there you can estimate whether she's more a sporty person, more an elegant person, more a colorful person, And that's exactly what AI somehow tries to digitalize.
But it's impressive. You mentioned about magic, and it actually feels like magic.
It feels
to the untrained mind behind it, and to the most users out there of AI, we just take it for granted. Oh, it's just the evolution of the technology. Where it's leading, it's sort of following the natural course. But actually, it is a lot of work behind it.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell us more about Intel and AI? And you have now this approach of AI everywhere.
Yes.
Bringing AI everywhere. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for asking. The AI everywhere is a reaction from Intel to the market. It's not something that Intel is defining. It's a reaction. I mean, AI will be everywhere. And as a technology provider, we have to support this revolution in the most responsible way, of course. So everywhere means that from a technology standpoint, it will be in wearable devices. It will be in the way we cook stuff, in the way when we go to a hospital, it will be in the background, providing an additional perspective to the doctors or the clinical professionals that will take decisions on our health status. It will be in our cars as it is already, right? So it's really smart cities, how to do the same thing with less performance, resources optimization. So it's really happening. And Intel's mission is to help in making this
it's beautiful.
Intel adoption.
Exactly, and it's Intel is one of the pioneers in the leading technology industry, so it's definitely the right spot. I'm thinking now, you're so right. I mean, we are using AI, even though we don't know we're using it. If you were to think about, and I'm putting you a little bit on the spot here, what would be the coolest AI application that you've heard, seen, worked with since you're working with AI?
Oh, there is one that really took my mind into another planet.
All right.
And it was
here
seeing this blind person wearing a helmet, non-invasive helmet. It was like a visor, visor. That person could walk autonomously. No dog, nobody assisting that person, no stick to move around. The helmet was just enough to warn the person when a new obstacle was coming up, when traffic light, when directions, when noise. Because now that helmet can see for that person, can talk to that person, and it has like sensors to communicate in a kind of a evolved way with that person itself. I think that's impressive.
It sounds mind-blowing, absolutely. And I'm thinking, I mean, it needs to be, was that in a commercial type of way or more a prototype? Because commercial speaking, for people to use it every day, it needs to be very compact.
Yes, it's an actual helmet. It's like you wear it like you wear a hat.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more digital than a hat, right? But still
impressive.
It's if you try to think, I can't understand because I never experienced something like that. But you can imagine how much you could feel more independent and autonomous.
Yeah.
And that is a life changer.
Indeed, it is, especially for the people that are, unfortunate to have side problems or challenges. And I'm thinking, if I have to make maybe it's not the right analogy to look at autonomous cars, but when we're looking at autonomous cars, they are driving in a much more predictable way. You have, roads that are a bit more standard with traffic lights and everything. But as a person, there's so many things that actually can happen without being trained in beforehand, right? I'm thinking about the helmet.
Well, yes, I would say they're both extremely complex tasks, but here you see where AI is actually getting everywhere, because maybe the cars is still, we do have the technology already, right, to drive a car autonomously, but the challenge is when you put that in real life and you have other cars, and if all the cars were driven by devices, by AI,
would be easy.
Because they can sing, they can talk to each other. But we don't want that. That's not that's not the point. We still have people driving cars, and so the sync between digital and human in that case is what is preventing these autonomous driving cars. Plus all the insurances discussion. So what I'm trying to say is that for helmets, if you start embedding sensors in the traffic lights or smart cities, those devices can communicate with the helmet as well.
Oh yeah,
which
exactly.
probably simplify a little bit the challenge from moving a person autonomously around the city than moving a car. Because as a person, I can bump into another person, I can apologize, offer them a coffee.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, lower.
With a car,
not the same story.
I can just offer a coffee and go away. So it's the damages could be more. So I see this evolving is not an endpoint at all. It's a starting point.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly powerful to see people that can move autonomously around. Even if it's just walking in the city center or having a walk, some garden, some park, I think that's extremely...
It's impressive, and it's just, it's coming, and at the essence is video analytics combined with a lot of other sensors around it, or analyzing sound and movement around. So absolutely impressive. Thanks for sharing that story.
No problem.
Very inspiring.
Thanks for asking.
I know you've just arrived from Intel Vision.
Yes.
Which happened this week in London.
Exactly.
How was it? Tell us a little bit.
It was an amazing event. A lot of customers and partners interactions. We love to hear from their feedback, because ultimately, as I said, Intel is reacting to the market, and the critical point to react is to listen and to have feedback. We want to build the technology that people need. And so we announced, for example, we shared the numbers of how great the AI PC is performing, because that was the first great concrete sign of this reactive approach, and we introduced the AI PC back in 14th of December 2023. It's a new, if you look at it from outside, it's just a laptop, but internally alongside the CPU and the GPU, it also has an NPU, neural processing unit. That is because AI has become more and more present. Think about the application that allow you to blur your background when you are on online calls.
Yeah.
Or the LLMs, like the AI that can check your email and help you with the grammar. As a non-native English speaker, I find that extremely helpful.
I share that as well, 100%.
And but there are other applications on the same line that I think are really cool. For example, Protection Guard, which is a startup we included in our Ignite program. That helps you highlighting any sensitive information that you might be writing down in your email before you send it. So if you're doing that, unconsciously, you can realize, oh, thank you. I didn't know this was sensitive. And being in the EU, that is a must-have kind of feature, right? So all of this, right now, if you're not using an AI PC, is basically either executing or robbing compute cycle to CPU or GPU.
Taking resources from there.
Correct. We need to think about a future where these little helpers will stay there and run in the background. So we have to do that efficiently, because either CPU and GPU, because they're more powerful, they can eventually consume more, and so the battery goes down at the speed light. So with the NPU, that's where we are tackling the problem. So we can support this type of workload in an efficient way and releasing the CPU and the GPU for other stuff.
I can't wait to get my hands on all of these laptops. My AI tool now is, when talking about emails and email check, is a 1 minute delay rule on all the emails I send, just in case I need to stop that to being sent.
Correct. And here's the other superpower. With EU regulations and more regulations being inspired by the EU AI Act or GDPR, now you can host those AI applications locally. So when you write an email, for example, and you need to check the grammar, it doesn't have to travel to a cloud, get checked, and get back. You can do it everything locally. And that means that if you are a software developer and you want to have an additional, let's say, perspective from an AI saying, this is where your code can be improved, you do not need to send maybe NDA code into some remote system for the service that you're using. You can do it locally, and that is a huge step forward. And this is with AI at the edge. But AI PC is not an endpoint; is a starting point, it's a transition point. So that is one of the announcements. Also, Xeon is always the backbone of any data center, which we've been evolving Xeon with AI dedicated muscles for training or inference. Now another significant trend is retraining versus fine-tuning. So with all these LLMs and these great players around that are training these large models, thanks to the open source community, now people can avoid doing that step. And that has an impact on the hardware that's required in an institution, right? So you leverage a pre-trained model. That's why they call it foundational models, because the foundation is already there. You just need to tweak it to
for your own use.
Yes, correct. And you can fine-tune it, but again, fine-tuning does not require heavy compute. Xeon can be perfectly fine for that. And you can scale out if you don't sustain the computation in one node. But LLMs, we've announced, for example, this is among the announcement at Vision, a great collaboration with a system integrator in Italy. And I had the pleasure and the honor to work directly with them, where we deployed a LLM with RAG. And for those that are not familiar with RAG, is retrieval augmented generation. Basically, you're not using the large language model, the AI, as it was trained. You just want the AI to be able to read and write. And then you link a source of information, like taking a kid, 10 years old kid, saying, as long as you're good in reading and writing, that's all I need. I give you my book, which maybe is the FAQ with my service, for example, for which I want you to support my customers. And you study that book, and then if you get a question about any service inside that, you answer and provide a link to the source. If you don't know it, just say you don't know it. Because people don't know, don't need a gigantic AI model that can talk about everything, but it's just unreliable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So RAG fine tuning. We made this possible through Xeon. But again, if this was not enough, then we have Gaudi, the accelerator for the data center, which is a great competitor for training models, but also for deploying inference at very low latency. Right now, I highly recommend the people out there to give Gaudi a go or have a look at it. The specs are all publicly available, the performance and the benchmark as well. It's really impressive what it could do from a performance per cost perspective.
I'm keen to see more about that. And actually, our team in Sweden has been working with ROG, and they have a data center set up in our office facilities in Stockholm, in Kista, where they're doing exactly that, feeding the machine with a specific set of information and then seeing how that reacts in the background. I saw that live, and even when they put in the model, like you are a consultant, like telling the script to the AI engine, to the LLM, how they should behave, how human they should respond, should they put the text all at once, which I think that for me was also a small revelation. ChatGPT kind of trained us, or not trained us, but kind of used us with putting the text as it thinks, which actually gives him time to process all the data. But in this side, we wanted all the text all at once. So it was actually very impressive to see it live working and demonstrating to customers how that actually model works, how they can have a solution with their own data in an LLM setup. So very impressive.
Because that is the actual superpower, right?
Yeah.
I mean, always really, what is the point of having a general model that can talk about anything? If I'm a customer and I want to put that in production because I want to support, for example, the HR request, or I want to support the ticketing system, when people raise a ticket for whatever inquiries, I want that bot, that chatbot, to be able to address the question related to my business or my service, my product. I don't want a chatbot that can tell me how to make the best carbonara on the planet, right? I want that chatbot to be able to address my issues and the issues that my customers might have. So RAG is the way to go. And it's interesting, it's fascinating. You know why? Because 2023, the entire world woke up with this big race to the large language models. Who could make it larger? So we started out with 7 billion, 14 billion parameters, then 40, then 70, then 176, 180 with from the Middle East. And now Llama actually announced they're working on a 400 billion model for next year. And this was 2023. And 2024, it's the race on the opposite direction. So Gemma is at 1 billion, 2 billion. It's like, because I think this is a clear separation between research and industry. Industry is going to, I need to narrow it down because I need to host that model. And I need the compute to give you a very short latency kind of experience. And I need that to be able to answer my questions.
Exactly.
Not any question. And I want that to be reliable. So that's the small language models. In research, of course, it's a lot of powerful investigation and learning that we are getting out of it. And in that case, the direction is to go bigger, multimodal.
But there's also so much data available there, right? They need to scale up at some point. But I'm curious to ask you. So I see the use of the LLMs and the LLMs and ROG today in more internal use. Do you see customers trusting it, the LLM outsourcing it as well to front-facing the customers? So let's say in a banking financial institution, how much would that industry allow for a chatbot to actually answer any questions the customer will address? I'm thinking there can be significant implications if the LLM is proposing something that is actually not doable, some rebates or some mortgages interested levels that eventually the bank, I assume, will probably have to take responsibility because it's their own system. Where do you see that transition coming from internal use to actually more front-facing outside of the customer?
So this is a great question because it highlights a real concrete challenge. Just because it's intelligence, quote unquote, because for me it's still a lot more artificial than it is intelligent.
I love that.
But this highlights the actual problem. These systems, for as marvelous or incredible or magic as they could appear, they suffer from being not completely reliable. And when you put this stuff in production, these are exactly the questions that you need to ask yourself. Now, there are ways to reduce the errors. For example, RAG, the more consistent you can be with the rules and the information that you put in the original source, which could be a document, could be a website. My recommendation is to have a database, like a vector database, where you just record the type of questions, for example, the FAQ, that you want that system to be able to address. And you redirect any questions which is delicate, which might include like refunding, for example, or a rebuttal, or that type of information to
a
human support. Actually, funny enough, there is a story about an LLM being deployed, an airline company, I can't remember the name generally speaking, but this is all public knowledge, of course, where the bot told that the customer was eligible for a refund. And the company had to pay that, but it was just completely made up by the model. So this is what I was referring to before. Use this thing consciously and investigate. But if you can narrow down the area where the bot or the AI can provide answer, and that will help you reducing the error, but still providing you help, because you can derail. Well, I mean, if you think about why a lot of websites present the FAQ, most frequent asked questions, right? It's because they say, this is what a lot of people is asking, so don't go through maybe a waiting queue, just get your answer there. But presented nicely in a more interactive way, I think it's still valuable and it's still beneficial for both, but not in all cases.
Not in all cases, and I can think about so many industries, insurance, pharmaceutical, healthcare, again, where, I mean, all of a sudden everybody has a lawyer in their pocket. You can ask about anything and you will get some answers. You mentioned earlier that with RAG, you can actually say, I don't know. I've never seen that on any LLM. I always get an answer, even if it's just refreshed or something. So very interesting story indeed.
Because these systems are designed to generate text. Not to know what they're generating.
They are just giving an input.
They're
making their job.
They're just throwing words, right? It's like I would pay you, Andrea, whatever I ask you, you just give me text. And
I'll have to give you because you can. Exactly.
It's like a funny story on this is I see a lot of posts around of people using this system, these LLMs, to augment the reach for the customer, the understanding for their customers. And they recommend you, there's a lot of blogs around, honestly, they recommend you go on your favorite AI system and ask the AI system to provide you a table with potential customers, with the personas, the different roles, and what are their needs, like perform a research. But they forget that most of those systems are not doing any actual live research. So what they are throwing is just text, right? And so this is the thing, you need to know what you're asking, and you need to know the actual boundaries of where the AI system can help you, because otherwise you will get an answer for sure. But because there's no consciousness behind it, the system will never tell you, I don't know enough about this, or my knowledge is limited, or I don't think you should trust me.
Oh, interesting.
Right? They will always give you an answer. So, and the funny thing is, if you're asking something about, like, you know how to make the best tiramisu in the world, and you ask and you challenge the LLM, give me the steps to make the best tiramisu in the world, you can spot whether the LLM is making something up. Because you know what you're talking about. So, and you can tell 9 out of 10 steps are correct, last one not. But if you're asking something you don't know, how can you tell that 9 steps out of 10 are correct? It could be that you have a lucky run, so 10 out of 10 steps are correct. but you don't know what you don't know.
Here comes the responsibility you mentioned earlier. So
Yes.
whoever is deploying that needs to have that final touch in the end. How far away do you think we are from actually companies starting to trust more LLMs?
In order to trust, you need to know. I think it all comes down to a word that I like. It's called awareness. And it's awareness of your challenges, awareness of the tools you're using, awareness of your maturity to use that tool, and awareness on the costs of using that tool. It's a holistic view that people needs to have. It starts with probably a better understanding of ourselves as human, and second, a better understanding of these tools. So again, let's go out of the magic bubble. There's no magic powder. There's no magic trick. There is statistics, which seems to work and work in an impressive way, but still, it's statistics. So something that works 99% of the time, you don't know when it's that 1%.
That is wrong, and that might actually be crucial, vital, and so forth.
Correct. So human oversight, but most importantly, an ingredient that humans have today and probably will keep having even in a very far away future is consciousness. So let's increase our awareness on these tools and where we can actually use them and for what reason. Because if we find the right spot for the right challenge, that's going to really make our life much easier and better. It's going to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
But the wrong tool for the known clear challenge is not sure of the outcome.
I mean, there is a reason why we don't have autonomous car all over the place, right? We're not there yet. But fascinating story. Thanks a lot for sharing, Walter. So building on this fantasy, would you believe that AI will ever take over the world?
So we've learned this from movies, and I think that's exactly where it should stay, because I like to. Let me augment and expand on your question, right?
Please do so.
Nobody has a crystal ball, so but no, there's a lot of concrete stuff already happening. I don't think that's the realistic scenario at all.
Yeah, agreed.
When I ask myself what's going to be the role of technology, I would question back. Arguably, would smartphones take over the world? What does it mean taking over the world?
Yeah.
Do we expect, I don't know, the washing machine to throw laundries at us because it becomes alive at some point?
I only wash when I want.
Yeah, no. But everyone today has a smartphone, right? And it's not just for fun. It's actually contributing to make our life easier. When you need to, for example, to get to this place, I had to consult a smartphone, and in 2 clicks I was here.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, probably it would have taken me more and more skills. So if you remove with a click smartphones from everyone's pocket for a week, right? We have developed a kind of dependency on the tools that are efficient in doing what they are expected to do. And so arguably we depend on those tools.
Yeah,
and AI is like the internet, right? If you take, can you say internet's taking over the world? Not really. It's not providing any harm. But the point is it's becoming an essential part because it's making our life easier.
Yeah.
And it's unlocking possibilities. I think it will be exactly the same for AI. It will be hidden in what we do. It will help us, as it's already helping us when we don't know which next TV series to watch or next song to listen to, or next product to buy. But that's probably the most concrete concept I can attach to becoming more and more present. But I would leave the movies,
the fantasies outside.
in the movie.
But it's one of those questions that kind of comes up in certain discussions when you talk about AI. People are somehow resisting, some of them resisting and adopting AI technology, even though they are potentially using it without even knowing. But still, we see a tendency in resisting, either because of lack of knowledge or lack of training, lack of understanding the actual technology. So I was just curious to kind of expand on that fantasy over there. And I would actually like to just close with some of your thoughts. So with AI becoming everywhere, more present, and looking at the work environment, do you believe that AI will become more of a teammate or a colleague? How would you position that?
Okay, I like this. I think it's the same difference I see between a 3D and a 2D life. One has a depth. I like to think about teammates as something more than two people working together. There is something that goes beyond the work productivity, that's something that goes beyond the work collaboration. Colleagues, it's something in the most positive way. It's something that is extremely efficient to address shared challenges in a professional environment. But I see this more neutral, more objective, more professional, as you say. So I think AI is and can only be a colleague from this standpoint. A colleague that can help me checking my grammar, a colleague that can help me rearranging my calendar with voice interactions, a colleague that can help me blur my background, or writing down tables or filling up template documents. I don't see that as a teammate. I expect a teammate to be something more. I can go have a coffee or a beer.
Come up with its own ideas, not just something that is already created by somebody and he's just replicating. Indeed, very, very interesting.
So, but I don't know. Maybe I'll be. It really starts with a personal definition that everyone gives to these two terms.
I mean, very interesting. Indeed, thanks for sharing, Walter. And now in the closing notes, we do encourage people to reach out to us. We at Arrow, we're here for the how, to guide the people, to guide the companies, and to their vision in using AI. So thank you very much again for joining me. It's been such an insightful conversation, and I hope I can have an opportunity to do a next one with you.
Anytime. Thank you too for inviting.
Thank you, Walter.